I never thought I'd find myself standing outside a place like this, staring at a building dressed up in white lights and soft gold ribbons, knowing I wasn't supposed to be here. The parking lot was full, laughter drifted across the night air, and the sound of a live band carried all the way to where I stood. For a moment, I just froze. My hands were shaking a little, not from the cold, but from the weight of everything that had led me here. I pressed the edge of an envelope tighter against my chest. Inside were papers I'd kept for months, maybe years, proof, memories. A history written in numbers and signatures. I hadn't planned on showing up tonight, not really. But as I drove past the glowing windows, I couldn't shake the thought. Why should I keep hiding what I've done for people who refuse to see me? I took a step closer to the entrance. The laughter inside grew louder, and I could almost picture it. The clinking of glasses, the hugs, the family photographs I wasn't asked to be in. For as long as I can remember, I've been standing just outside the frame, helping quietly while everyone else smiled for the camera. I caught sight of my reflection in the glass door before me. My hair was pinned back neatly, though I'd fussed with it too much in the car. My lipstick had smudged at the corner and I wiped it away with my thumb. I wanted to look calm, confident, even if my heart felt like it might leap right out of my chest. A memory flickered in my mind. Me at 12 years old, standing at the edge of my brother's birthday party, watching him tear into a mountain of gifts while I helped Mom refill the chip bowls. Everyone clapped for him, but nobody noticed I was the one cleaning spilled soda off the rug. That feeling never left me. It just followed me, year after year, celebration after celebration. Always him in the spotlight, always me in the shadows. I adjusted the strap of my purse and glanced down at the old photograph tucked into the corner of the envelope. It was a picture of us years ago. He had his arms thrown wide, grinning. I stood at his side, quiet, half cut out of the frame. The photo was faded now, but every time I looked at it, I felt the same ache. I loved them, I did. But love can only carry so much weight when it's not returned. The door swung open suddenly, and a couple walked past me, laughing, their perfume and cologne swirling together in the cool night air. I stepped aside quickly, clutching the envelope even tighter. They didn't notice me. Just like always, I took a long breath. I wasn't here to beg for an invitation. I wasn't here to ask why I wasn't enough. Tonight I was here for me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to stay silent. I was going inside, not as a forgotten guest, but as someone who finally had something to say. Growing up in my house always felt like living in someone else's shadow. My brother Preston was the golden one. Every birthday, every school play, every small achievement of his turned into a grand celebration. Balloons, cakes, loud applause, like the world revolved around him. And maybe, in our family's eyes, it really did. I still remember his 16th birthday. Mom and Dad rented out this huge space, covered the tables in gold cloth, hired a DJ. Everyone was dancing, laughing, singing his name. I spent most of that night in the kitchen, pouring sodas and making sure the pizza trays didn't run out. Nobody asked me to. I just slipped into that role because no one else cared enough to notice the small things. When the party ended, Preston was showered with gifts and praise, and I was left cleaning up plates no one wanted to deal with. That was my place. Always my place. It didn't stop when we got older. Mom and Dad, Mary Beth and Calvin, always treated him like the prize. Every time he had an idea, they backed him up. No questions asked. And me? I was the one they leaned on quietly. The one who made sacrifices behind the scenes. I paid the electric bill once when the lights were about to be cut off. Dad promised he'd pay me back, but he never did. I covered the down payment on Mom's medical treatment when insurance didn't come through on time. No one ever thanked me. They just sighed with relief and went back to talking about Preston's new promotion or his next big trip. I kept records of everything, not because I wanted to hold it over them, but because I needed proof for myself that I mattered. Every invoice, every Venmo transfer, every email from a vendor or a company thanking me for a payment. At first, I tucked them away out of habit. Later, it became my way of holding on to the truth. And then came the wedding planning. Oh, the wedding. Everyone buzzed around Preston like he was some kind of king. The meetings with the caterer, the florist, the venue. Half the time they didn't even tell me the details, yet they had no problem asking me to just help with this one little thing. Except it wasn't little. It was thousands of dollars. The flowers? I paid the deposit. The band? I covered their booking fee when the first check bounced. Even the venue. Do you know how much those places cost? I pulled from my savings, telling myself I was doing it for the family, for Preston, because maybe this time they'd finally see me. But deep down, I knew better. The pattern had been set years ago. Preston was the star. I was the scaffolding holding everything up while no one bothered to look at the girl in the background. And as the wedding day drew closer, I realized just how invisible they truly believed I was. I found out the truth by accident. One night I was scrolling through my phone when a picture popped up on social media. It was a screenshot of the wedding guest list, shared by one of Preston's friends. I zoomed in, scanning the names, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, neighbors we barely knew, even a guy Preston went to high school with who hadn't been around since graduation. But my name wasn't there. Not anywhere. At first I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the list was old, or maybe they'd left me off by accident. I tried to push the thought aside, but the more I stared at it, the more the truth pressed down on me. I wasn't invited. The next day I called Mom. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Hey," I said, "I saw the guest list for Preston's wedding. My name wasn't on it. That's just a mistake, right?" There was a pause, the kind that makes your stomach sink. Then Mom sighed, soft and tired. "Sweetheart, it's Preston's wedding. He wanted to keep it small." "Small?" I snapped. "There are over 200 people on that list. Neighbors, old friends, people he barely talks to." "But not me?" She didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "It's not about you. Don't make this about you." And just like that, she ended the call. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, my phone still in my hand. My own mother couldn't even defend me. Later that week, I decided to go straight to the source. I showed up at Preston's place. He opened the door, smiling at first, then rolling his eyes when he saw me. "What's up?" he asked like I was an inconvenience. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Why am I not invited to your wedding?" He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Chloe, come on. Don't make this a big deal." "It is a big deal. I'm your sister," he shrugged. "Look, it's just, you're not really part of things. You don't fit in with everyone else." I didn't want drama. I wanted the day to be about family. I felt my throat tighten. "Not family? After everything I've done for you? For this wedding?" He laughed like it was funny. "You've always been too sensitive. This is my day. I don't want you ruining it." His words hit me like a punch. Not family. Not welcome. Just an outsider in the house I grew up in. The same house where I cleaned up his parties, paid the bills, held everything together when no one else could. I walked away that night, but the echo of his voice followed me. "You're not family enough." It replayed over and over until it burned itself into me. That was the moment something inside me broke. And that was the moment I decided I wouldn't stay silent anymore. After that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing his words over and over again. Not family enough? Every time I thought about it, my chest burned. But anger has a way of clearing the fog. I got up, pulled the box from under my bed, and spread everything out on the floor. Receipts, invoices, screenshots of bank transfers, email confirmations from vendors. Every little piece of proof I'd tucked away over the years, especially during the wedding planning. The florist's deposit, paid by me. The catering balance, covered when Preston's card was declined. The band's booking fee, wired from my account at midnight, so no one would panic the next morning. Even the venue's massive deposit, my signature sat right there on the paperwork. I stared at the pile, shaking my head. How could I have done so much, given so much, and still been tossed aside like I didn't matter? My hands were trembling, but not from sadness anymore. This time it was fire. I organized everything into a neat stack. I made copies. I even printed the email threads, highlighting my name where it said payment received from Chloe Hale. The proof was ironclad, and I knew it. No one could twist this. No one could pretend it didn't happen. For days, I carried that envelope around with me, testing myself. Would I really go through with it? Could I stand in front of everyone and let the truth spill out? Every time I thought about backing down, I saw Preston's smug grin in the doorway, telling me I wasn't family, and that pushed me forward. The night of the wedding, I walked into the reception hall, my envelope tucked tight under my arm. The place sparkled, gold chandeliers, flowers draped across the tables, guests laughing in their shiny dresses and suits. All of it built on the money I had scraped together while everyone else looked down on me. I kept to the edges at first, watching. The moment had to be right. People clinked their glasses, waiting for Preston's big toast. He stood there smiling with his bride glowing beside him. He raised his glass high, thanking everyone for being there, calling them the most important people in his life. My stomach turned. That was it. My moment. I walked forward, my heels clicking against the floor. At first, no one noticed me. Then the whispers started. I stopped near the front, pulled the papers from the envelope, and said clear and steady, "If we're talking about important people, maybe you should thank the one who actually paid for half of this wedding." The room went silent. I held up the receipts one by one, laying them on the table like playing cards in a game no one could deny. Gasps spread through the crowd. People leaned closer, eyes widening, mouths falling open. And Preston? He went pale, completely drained of color. For once, he had nothing to say. The silence in that room was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. You could hear the band stop mid-song, the clinking of glasses dying out, even the whispers holding back for just a beat. All eyes were on me, and for once I wasn't invisible. Preston's smile cracked first. His glass lowered, his face turning pale as if every drop of blood had drained out of him. His bride glanced at him, confused, tugging gently at his arm. "Preston, what is she talking about?" she whispered. But the microphone in his hand picked it up just enough for the crowd to hear. I laid another receipt on the table, my voice steady. "This," I said, pointing to the florist's invoice, "paid in full by me. And this one, catering deposit, covered when Preston's card bounced. Oh, and here's the venue deposit. Funny thing, I signed it." "Not him," the crowd erupted into murmurs. A couple at the front actually leaned over to get a closer look. One of the vendors, the DJ, raised his hand and said loudly, "Yeah, I remember her name on the payment. She handled it." That only stirred things more. Preston tried to laugh it off, his voice cracking. "She's exaggerating. She helped a little, that's all. You know Chloe, always making herself the victim." I turned to him slowly, my hands no longer shaking. "A little?" I lifted the stack of receipts high enough for everyone to see. "This is thousands of dollars. Not a little, Preston. Almost everything you bragged about tonight I paid for." The guests started whispering louder, some shaking their heads, others glaring at him. His bride pulled her hand away from his and hissed under her breath, "Is this true?" He didn't answer right away, and that silence told her more than words ever could. Mom and Dad sat frozen at their table. Mom's forced smile faltered, and Dad stared down at his plate like maybe if he didn't look up, none of this was happening. For once, they didn't rush to defend him. Maybe they couldn't. Preston stepped forward, his voice sharp now, almost desperate. "You don't get to ruin my wedding, Chloe. You're jealous, that's all this is. You've always been bitter because I'm the one people care about." I looked right at him, holding his gaze. "If you were really the one people cared about, Preston, you wouldn't need me paying for the very ground you're standing on right now." The gasps turned into whispers that spread like wildfire. I could hear people saying, "Did you know about this? She paid for all of it? Why would they treat her like that?" The perfect image Preston built for himself was crumbling right there, in front of everyone. And me? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood there, calm and unshaken, letting the truth hang in the air. For the first time in my life, Preston didn't control the story. I did. The room buzzed with whispers, but I didn't need to hear them anymore. I had said what I came to say. I had shown what I needed to show. Preston's face was pale, his bride's eyes full of questions he couldn't answer, and my parents sat frozen like statues, too ashamed to even look my way. For a moment, I stood there in the center of it all, surrounded by the glitter of chandeliers and the smell of roses that I had paid for. I thought about staying longer, thought about watching Preston stumble and scramble for excuses, but I realized I didn't need to. His downfall wasn't mine to narrate. The truth was out, and that was enough. I gathered the last of my papers, tucking them back into the envelope. My hands were calm now, not trembling the way they had when I first walked in. I looked up, and all those eyes were still on me. Guests I barely knew, cousins who'd ignored me, family friends who never remembered my birthday. For once they saw me, really saw me. I cleared my throat and said softly, "That's all I had to say." Then I turned, heels clicking against the floor as I walked away from the spotlight that was never meant for me. No one stopped me. No one dared. As I reached the doors, I heard Preston's voice crack behind me, stammering excuses, trying to explain. "She's twisting things. She's trying to embarrass me." But the tone of the crowd told me no one believed him anymore. His words were weak now, flimsy against the solid weight of proof I'd left behind. I stepped outside into the cool night air, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The muffled music and chatter stayed trapped behind the walls of the venue, and out here, under the open sky, I felt light. Free. I clutched the envelope to my chest, but it didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like closure. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't just some forgotten shadow at the edge of my family's life. Proof that I had mattered all along, even if they didn't want to admit it. The parking lot was quiet, the night breeze brushing against my face as I walked toward my car. My heels clicked against the pavement, echoing like a steady drumbeat. Each step felt stronger than the last, as if with every stride I was leaving behind years of silence, years of being overlooked, years of letting them decide where I belonged. I paused once, turning back to glance at the glowing venue behind me. The lights sparkled, the music swelled again, but none of it touched me anymore. That world wasn't mine, and I didn't want it to be. With my head held high, I whispered to myself, "I'm done." Then I slid into my car, shut the door, and drove off into the night, finally free, finally seen, finally ready to start living for myself. If you felt something in this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can stay with me for more stories of revenge, drama, and life lessons. And I'd love to hear from you. Share your own story in the comments below, because your voice matters here too.